The House will stand at ease until 10:15. The House will stand at ease until 10:15.
The hour of convening having arrived, all members of this House will please take their seats and report to the chamber. All members of this House will report to the chamber. The clerk will ring the bell. All members will please take your seats. We are going to have the morning roll call. All members of the Georgia House of Representatives present will please vote green to signify their presence in the chamber, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Will Representative Prince or Representative Williams vote? Representative Gilliard, please. Thank you. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. Doorkeepers will please close the doors and keep them closed. Well, good morning. Happy Friday to everyone. More importantly, happy day 39. We will begin our day with scripture reading and prayer by the chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. Our chaplain this morning will be introduced by the gentleman from the 162nd House District, Representative Carl Gilliard. Representative Gilliard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, good morning, my brothers and sisters in the House of Representatives. It's very rare that a minister would get a chance to introduce another minister that ministers to him. But the first thing I want to do is do something a little much needed, and I think I need it. Why don't you stand to your feet and give God some praise? And I know you can do better than that. We're almost there. Day 39. Look at your neighbor and say, we're about to make this thing. And if he's really been good to you, stop acting cute and give him some real praise up in here, up in here, up in here. Abel Mabel said, that felt good. I just want to be real today because this gentleman that I'm going to introduce does minister to me, and everybody needs someone to encourage them. And Pastor Gordon is the pastor in Savannah, Georgia, First Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church. And he is here today with his lovely only lady and the first lady of First Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church, Mrs. Gordon. Would you stand right now? His daughter, Dakota. And future Mr. Super Bowl and Dr. Damon II is here on today. Damon Gordon II. And they're great members that I fellowship and worship with all the time from First Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church in the gallery. Would you stand and give them a hand? Wave your hands if you can. Pastor Gordon is originally from Arkansas. Pastor Gordon is the senior pastor of First Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church. He spent many years in Meridian, Mississippi, and after high school attended Southern Arkansas University and Oklahoma University. He was a great athlete, but now he's a better athlete, really giving a lot to our community in Savannah. He attained a Master's of Arts and Religion of the Church Ministries from Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia. I don't want to prolong this word, but I want you to just welcome my friend and brother, Pastor Damon P. Gordon from First Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church. Will you welcome?
We give praise and honor to God, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. We thank God for, and we honor the Speaker of this House, David Austin, and to Carl Gilliard, representative and my friend. We are extremely excited to be here, to be a part of this wonderful session, and I am honored to be in a room with such dignified and honorable people. I thank God again for my family and to all of my members who are with us on today. As I prayed and pondered about what I would share with this house on today, I was reminded of a story that I once read. This story is about a man named John who decided one day that he would go out to visit his friend in the country. He packed up his family and his wife, and he rode out to the country to visit his friend. And on his way there, he noticed before he arrived to his friend's home, he saw a barn. And on the side of this barn, he noticed that there were 20 bullet holes all on the outside of the barn. The strange thing about these bullet holes is that every last one of them were dead-centered bullseye. John was stupefied, and he was really intrigued about who would be such a great shot, a crack shot that they can hit bullseye every time. And so he rode to his friend's house, and he said, John, before you do anything else, I need to know who is a crack shot that they are able to hit bullseye every time. His friend said, that's easy, it's me. He said, are you such a marksman that you're able to do that? I just can't believe it. How are you able to hit bullseye every time? And his friend said, oh, it's easy. I shot first, and then I painted the bullseye later. My brothers and my sisters, like that somewhat humorous story, some may suggest that we have become a world that are guilty of mere paint jobs, and we are off target. When we consider the recent tragic events that have shocked and shook people from every walk of life, I'm sure that you would agree that we are a world off target. If any of the 49 people who were killed in a shooting at two mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand, were able to testify today, I believe that their voices would ring through the halls of the Capitol and echo, world off target. Or how about 10-year-old Renaya Wright, an elementary school student from Walterboro, South Carolina, who died from injuries while being beaten and bullied by other elementary students on Monday, March the 25th. If she was here today, she would scream, "World off target." Not to mention 14-year-old Mary Crocker and her brother, Elwin Crocker Jr., who was buried in a family's yard in Guyton, Georgia, by people who were supposed to protect them. Yet they exchanged care for cruelty. Yes, my brothers and sisters, we have become a world off target. However, I have some good news for you today. Like those of you who are here today, I still have hope. This hope, it is entrusted in the hands and hearts of fearless leaders like you, who dare to respond and move away from mere paint jobs by leading and living their lives according to the words of the master creator of all creation. These words, my brothers and sisters, are penned in the pages of Matthew chapter 22, verses 37 and 39. Jesus said unto him, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind." Verse 39 reads, "And the second is like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." If we as leaders are going to help move the world back on target and get away from mere paint jobs, we must make sure that every action, every vote, every minute of deliberation, every stroke of the pen, every hidden thought, and every public proclamation be motivated and mingled with love. So as the chaplain of the day, I challenge every representative, I challenge every leader and every individual to do as Jesus had commanded in Matthew chapter 22. He, in essence, gives you and I the ammunition for authentic peace and unity. He says, I'm giving you the blueprint to building bridges. He says, first, we should love God completely. With all that we are, with every fiber of our being, with all of the passion and all of the intellect, he says, love me completely. And once you love me completely, you ought to love others with compassion. You cannot love God and you don't love people that you come in contact with. You cannot love God and you don't love people who are less fortunate and who need more than we could ever give them. Not only should we love God completely and love others with compassion, but the last thing we should do is love yourself correctly. When we do this, we can be sure that our nation, our state, our city, our communities, and our lives will be on target. Let us pray. Most gracious and heavenly Father, Lord, we come just to tell you thank you. We thank you, God, for this opportunity. We thank you for your grace and your mercy. Lord, we ask now that you would allow your spirit to fall fresh in this room and in this building, that each and every person that is represented here today, God, will feel the grace and will feel the mercy and the love over their life. But most of all, God, when they feel that same grace, that same mercy, and that same love, that they will be able to extend it to their brothers and their sisters. Lord, we pray for this house. We pray for the leaders in this house. And we pray, God, that you would crown their heads with wisdom, that they'll be able to lead our great state of Georgia with fervor and with dignity. God, we honor you today. We honor you because of your son Jesus that died that we may have the right to the tree of life. And God, we ask now that you be lifted up, because your word says that if you be lifted up, you will draw all men unto you. Draw them now, God, into your service. Draw them now into your love. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. Chair recognizes Chairman Taylor, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Information and Audits have read the proceedings of the previous legislative day and found them to be correct.
Chairman Taylor, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. We have an objection.
Yeah, I do. Mr. Speaker, I stand to object to the findings of the Committee on Information and Audits as the votes during Thursday, March 28th legislative session were registered incorrectly in the journal. In particular, vote number 325 that occurred at 6:41 p.m. was not correctly counted during the aforementioned roll call vote, as 3 representatives were not present in the chamber for those votes, yet their machines were somehow registered that they were present in the chamber and voted in consideration for reconsideration of HB 321. Therefore, I move that vote number 325 for House Bill 321 be expunged from the journal of the House due to the fact that the machines for the 3 representatives incorrectly registered that they were present in the chamber, and said machines seemingly voted for themselves, as the representatives clearly were not present in the chamber when the votes took place. Additionally, I request that the clerk read Rule 138.1 and Rule 138.9.
We read the rule yesterday, Representative.
These are 2 different rules, Mr. Speaker. Rule 138.1 speaks to the voting cards remaining in our machines, and Rule 139.3 states that voting machines shall be open for at least 60 seconds.
Well, the chair is going to respond to your motion by reading both of the rules, and then I'm not going to recognize any other part of the motion. The clerk will read the rules.
Rule 138.1, if each member shall be issued one electric card by the clerk to activate the member's voting console to allow the member access to the electronic voting system. Any member may not duplicate the electronic card issued by the clerk. An electronic voting card issued to a member must not be left in the voting console at any time while the member is not in the seat or in the immediate proximity of the member's seat. Rule 139.3. The machine shall remain unlocked for a voting period of at least 60 seconds, after which the machine shall be locked by the clerk on order of the speaker, and the vote shall be tabulated.
Okay, Chair, hopefully never gets to a point where I can't say I'm wrong. Your objection does entitle a vote. So at this time, we're going to vote to confirm the journal. We're going to vote the confirmation of the journal from yesterday's legislative proceedings. All those in favor of the confirmation of the journal will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? Have all members now voted? What purpose does Representative Turner rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
In the event that House rules are silent, could we find out with Definity which rules book would we use?
We just had the rules read, and we voted on the confirmation of the journal. What purpose does Chairman Pruitt rise? He waves. Have all members now voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the confirmation of the journal, the ayes are 144, the nays are 6. The journal is confirmed. The clerk will read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day.
Mr. Burns, under 59, moves following be establishes the order of business during the first part of the period of unanimous consents. Introduction to bills and resolutions, first reading and reference of House bills and resolutions, second reading of bills and resolutions, reports of standing committees, third reading and passage of uncontested local bills and resolutions, morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 701 by Representative Hatchett of the 150th. The bill being entitled Act to Amend Code Section 22-164 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to local 5 mill share funds.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 702 by Representative Errol of the 106th, Workheisen of the 157th, Trammell of the 132nd, Holcomb of the 81st, Bodie the 62nd, and others. The bill being entitled an act to amend the Official Code of Georgia annotated so as to repeal the imposition of the death penalty in
Judiciary Non-Civil.
House Bill 703 by Representative Jones of the 53rd, Bernal of the 77th, Hobson of the 153rd, Metz of the 55th. Bill be entitled an act to amend Code Section 4286, the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to special license plates.
Motor Vehicles.
House Bill 704 by Representative Tankersley, the 160th, Powell of the 32nd, Hawkins the 27th, Burns the 159th. Bill be entitled an act to amend Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to professions and businesses.
Regulated Industries.
House Bill 705 by Representative Smith the 70th, Meeks the 178th, Workheisen the 157th, Hogan of the 179th, and Williams the 145th. Bill being titled an act to amend Chapter 8 of Title 12 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to waste management.
Natural Resources and Environment.
House Bill 706 by Representative Wiedauer, the 119th against the 117th bill being titled an act to authorize the governing authority of Coney County to levy an excise tax.
Intragovernmental Coordination.
House Bill 707 by Representative McCall of the 33rd Roads to the 120th, Fleming of the 121st. Bill being titled an act to amend Chapter 12 of Title 2 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to fertilizers and liming materials.
Natural Resources and Environment.
House Bill 708 by Representative Fleming of the 121st Roads to the 120th, McCall of the 33rd. A bill being titled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 5 of Title 12 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to control of water pollution, surface water use.
Natural Resources and Environment.
House Bill 709 by Representative Cantrell of the 22nd, Burns the 159th, Trammell of the 132nd, Gravely of the 67th, McCall of the 33rd, and others. Bill being titled an act to provide for the holding of a non-binding advisory referendum election.
State Planning and Community Affairs.
House Bill 710 by Representative Petrie of the 166th, Stevens the 164th, Gilliard of the 162nd, Hitchens the 161st, Gordon of the 163rd. Bill being titled an act to incorporate the city of Chatham Islands.
Governmental Affairs.
House Bill 711 by Representative Dreyer of the 59th, Holly the 111th, Couch of the 50th, Hutchinson the 107th, Smith the 41st, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 3A, Title 46 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to integrated resource planning.
Energy, Utilities, and Telecommunications.
House Bill 712 by Representative Gertler the 8th, a bill being titled an act to amend Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to local government.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 713 by Representative Gertler the 8th, bill being titled an act to amend Chapter 19 of Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to control of rabies.
Agriculture and Consumer Affairs.
House Bill 714 by Representative Wynn of the 89th, Bodie the 62nd, Cannon the 58th, Fry the 118th, Hutchinson the 107th, and others. Bill being titled an act to amend Article 3, Chapter 5 of Title 42 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to conditions of detention generally.
Public Safety and Homeland Security.
House Resolution 725 by Representative Cooper the 43rd, Stevens the 164th, Parrish the 158th, Trammell the 132nd, Newton the 123rd. A resolution recognizing the policy recommendations and outcomes of co-prescribing Naxalone with opioids.
Health and Human Services.
That completes first readers.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 700 by Representative Dollar of the 45th, Powell of the 32nd, Harold of the 106th, a bill relating to physicians, acupuncture, physician assistants, and others. House Resolution 682 by Representative Jaspers of the 11th and Martin of the 49th, resolution creating the House Study Committee on Higher Education Outcomes. House Resolution 683 by Representative Stevens of the 164th, resolution creating the House Study Committee on a tax deduction for members of a healthcare sharing organization. House Resolution 723 by Representative Dreyer of the 59th, Jackson of the 64th, Couch of the 50th, Hutchinson of the 107th, Howard of the 124th, resolution recognizing the mission of the Children's Freedom Initiative to ensure all children live with families in permanent, loving homes, not in nursing facilities, institutions, or other congregate settings. House Resolution 724 by Representative Clark of the 98th, Jones of the 167th, resolution proposing amendment to the Constitution so as to provide that no person shall be eligible to serve more than 8 consecutive years as the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Senate Bill 242 by Senator Lucas of the 26th, a bill to provide a new charter for the town of Toomsboro. Senate Bill 245 by Senator Unterman of the 45th, bill to amend an act providing a new charter for the city of Beaufort. Senate Bill 247 by Senator Brass of the 28th and Robertson of the 29th, a bill to authorize the Magistrate Court of Troup County to charge a technology fee. Senate Bill 250 by Senator Jordan of the 6th, Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, Williams of the 39th, Harrell of the 40th, Karenchak of the 48th, the bill to amend an act creating a state court of Fulton County. Senate Bill 252 by Senator Lucas of the 26th, a bill to amend an act to abolish the present model of compensating the clerk of the Superior Court of Twiggs County. Senate Bill 253 by Senator Lucas of the 26th, a bill to amend an act to abolish the present model of compensating the judge of the probate court of Twiggs County. Senate Bill 254 by Senator Lucas of the 26th, a bill to amend an act to abolish the present model of compensating the tax commissioner of Twiggs County. Senate Bill 255 by Senator Lucas of the 26th, a bill to provide a new charter of the town of Danville. Senate Bill 256 by Senator Jones of the 10th and Strickland of the 17th, a bill to create the Stockbridge Public Facilities Authority, Senate Bill 257 by Senator Lucas of the 26th, a bill to amend an act to abolish the present model of compensating the sheriff of Twiggs County. Senate Bill 261 by Senator Jordan of the 6th, a bill to amend an act to create a Board of Elections and Registration in Cobb County. Senate Bill 263 by Senator Brass of the 28th and Robertson of the 29th, a bill to authorize the probate court of Troup County to charge a technology fee. Through second readers.
Chair wants to recognize on the floor of the House a former member of this body, former State Representative Melvin Everson. Reports of standing committees, the clerk will read.
Representative Jan Tankers of the 160th District Chairman of the Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Local submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Local has under consideration the following bills of the Senate. It is instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. Senate Bill 89 do pass. Senate Bill 230 do pass. Senate Bill 244 do pass. Senate Bill 246 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Jan Tankersley, the 160th District Chairman. Representative Powell, the 32nd District Chairman of the Committee on Regulated Industries, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Regulated Industries has had under consideration the following bill of the Senate. It has instructed me to report same back to the House with the following recommendations. Senate Bill 146 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Powell, the 32nd District Chairman. That completes the reading of the reports of standing committees.
We are going on now to the local calendar. Third reading and passage of uncontested local bills. If there is no objection, we will vote on the local calendar as a whole with a recorded vote. Hearing none, it is so ordered. The clerk will read the local calendar.
Senate Bill 89 by Senator Parent of the 42nd, City of Decatur. Senate Bill 230 by Senator Henson, the 41st, City of Tucker. Senate Bill 244 by Senator Mullis, the 53rd, Dade County. Senate Bill 246 by Senator Henson, the 41st, DeKalb County.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on the local calendar? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bills? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall these bills now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bills on the local calendar will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of the bills on the local calendar. The ayes are 157. The nays are 0. These bills, having received the requisite constitutional majority, are therefore passed. We are going on now to morning orders. Going on to morning orders. We've had about 20 members sign up for morning orders. The chair is going to limit the members to 1 minute each, and that will be enforced. 1 minute. Chair recognizes Representative Caldwell for a morning order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. All right, guys, I come up today nervously excited to tell you, I told you guys during the special session that my wife and I would be having our...
Just a minute,
Yes,
Representative.
sir.
I'm going to get you a little order.
Thank you. Guys, I'm excited. We told you guys during the special session my wife and I would be having our first daughter. That happens tomorrow. So, thank y'all. And I promise you one day I will show her in the state archives that you guys clapped for her. She is as popular as she'll ever be right now. Whether or not the speaker remembers, when my son was born a week before session 4 years ago, he told me, Michael, timing is everything and you do not have it. I raise you a daughter between day 39 and day 40. So thank you guys very much. If you'd be praying for my wife and my daughter tomorrow, I would really appreciate it. Thank you all.
Chair recognizes Representative Evans for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. Please help me welcome Reverend Fahed Abu Akel, the past moderator of the Presbyterian Church USA, Mike Sabah, former Snellville City Council member, and Wally Yazbak, former Global IT Director for Coca-Cola, to the Capitol today. They're here, and we are here today in honor of National Arab American Heritage Month, which is celebrated each April throughout the U.S. We are grateful that for over a century, Arab Americans have been making valuable contributions to every aspect of American society, including medicine, law, business, technology, government, and culture. Thank you so much.
Chair recognizes Representative Beasley Teague for a morning order.
Oh, the light's already on? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Oh. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You're on
Good
the
morning.
clock.
Good morning, everybody. One, I'm here to say that today is House District 65 Day at the Capitol, and they're in the Senate. So please talk to them when they come over, please. And the other thing is, it's been a year and a week and a day, I think I have it right, since the tornado, the EF2 tornado hit in my district. I have never had a tornado to hit in the area where I live in 50 years, less known in the last 27 years. And I just want to let y'all know, those of you that took time to call me and let me know where the tornado was and to run and all this, I appreciate that, including the lobbyists that called. And actually, we only have about 2 people that still need help. But other than that, God is able, and I appreciate you all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Walensky for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, everybody. And I've done several morning orders this year, but this is the most delicious one for sure. Today we have here Tricia Gephardt, Matt Gephardt, Ernest Gephardt, and they, the co-owners were here also of the Village Burger, if y'all can all stand. The Village Burger in Dunwoody, Georgia, Travel Magazine gave the #1 burger in Georgia. And not only that, it's not a $20 burger, it's not a $10 burger, it's a $6 burger. So, and it's also a community place. If y'all come, there's always families and friends there, so please come. And not only that, their fries are made in rice bran oil, which lowers your cholesterol, so it may be good for you. So just congratulations to them, and thank you for all you do for our community.
Chair recognizes Representative Dreyer for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Earlier today, we were joined by several members of the developmental disability community. They're down here to talk about their issues, which include things that affect every Georgian's: access to health care, access to low-cost housing, and the respect that everyone would believe that they deserve. I want to thank them for coming down here. I want to thank them for continuing to have a presence at the Capitol and advocating for so many Georgians that physically cannot get down here. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Holly for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Joined today by some of my colleagues for House Resolution 426, commemorating today as Atlanta University Center Day here at the Capitol. The Atlanta University Center is a consortium comprised of 5 historically black colleges: Morehouse College, Clark Atlanta University, Spelman College, Morris Brown College, and Morehouse School of Medicine. 6, and the Interdenominational Theological Center. Today we are joined by some of our alum in the gallery, of students, faculty, and staff. If you are any there, can you please stand so we can recognize you today? Yeah, they're scattered.
Chair recognizes Representative Burno for a morning order.
Barbecue luncheon later.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This morning I rise to thank my parents, Charles and Mary Hammonds, for all their love and support. It is because of their example that I am able to stand here today. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Wynn for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, March 29th, commemorates the date in 1973 when the last U.S. troops left Vietnam, ending our involvement in the 11-year conflict. It's estimated over 1.3 million lives were lost between 1965 to 1974, the years in which we were engaged in the war. So today, on the 50th anniversary, I want to honor all the veterans who fought in Vietnam and highlight a few individuals. My daddy, who served for 3 years, Dwight Friedrichs, the U.S. veteran who sponsored my family. And lastly, I want to thank the 2 remaining Vietnam veterans in this body, my friend, Representative Al Williams and Colonel Bill Hitchens, who served in Vietnam as young men many, many years ago. Thank you, representatives, for your service. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Hutchinson for a morning order.
Good morning, colleagues. Today, I'd like to introduce you to Margaret. Margaret's 11 years old, and she is one of the more than 200 children that are waiting for adoptive homes in Georgia. She is a loving girl who plans to have a fun job when she grows up. I'm recruiting her to come here. Margaret is very outgoing once she warms up. She also enjoys listening to JoJo and Maddie B Sorry, I don't know who those people are, but apparently they're very good. Playing with LOL dolls. Margaret loves playing games such as Jenga. She is very strategic when playing, which will make her good as a legislator. Margaret makes good grades in school, and her favorite subject is art. Margaret enjoys shopping, baking, and playing dress up. So let's meet Margaret. Thank you, colleagues, and thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Glanton for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, good morning. I rise this morning as we bring to the close the recognition and celebration of Women's History Month in this legislative body to honor and to recognize three very special women in my life: my wife, my youngest daughter, and my granddaughter. I want to honor my wife, a native of Hawaii, Perla Glanton, for her faithful and dedicated service to our nation as a veteran of the United States Army and as a federal civil service employee for over 15 years, culminating with her assignment to help train and develop young military officers assigned to the Medical Corps, and who continues to work alongside me in advocating for, honoring, and supporting our brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces, both past and present. I also honor my daughter, Sergeant First Class Nikki Glanton, a graduate of Mara High School of Clayton County Public School System, an 18 years active duty member of the United States Army, presently assigned to the 3rd Infantry Division of Fort Stewart, Georgia, as a public affairs officer, and is currently serving on her 5th deployment to the Middle East in an undisclosed location. Lastly, and equally as important, my granddaughter, Private Jada Glanton, affectionately known in my family as My Shadow, a recent graduate of Richmond Hills High School near Savannah, who is presently stationed in Fort Hood, Texas, and assigned to the 1st Squadron Apache of the 3rd Cavalry Regiment. I salute each of these distinguished women in my life who have chosen to serve in our armed forces, guarding our freedoms, our country, and our way of life. I honor as well the honorable women serving in this body and throughout the United States for their own achievements and accomplishments and contributions to this great nation and beyond. I look forward to watching and supporting women in my life as each of them navigate their way into the history books of tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Stovall and the Clayton County delegation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. We're excited on this day 39 to have with us members from the city of Morrow. We have Mayor Jeff Dittar, Mayor Pro Tem Janelle Bridges, and City Councilwoman Dorothy Dean. Members, will you please help us to welcome them to the state capitol? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Abel Mabel Thomas for a morning order.
Mr. Speaker and members of this distinguished body, I'm honored to come today to recognize and commend Raymond Tweet Williams, and for other purposes. Will you please stand, all of y'all in the audience that's with him, Jerry, others. First I want to say that he's a graduate of Booker T. Washington High School, and I wore my blue color, royal blue, in honor of that. He has a long and consistent record of service to the community in the state, and has been recognized as one of the most dynamic and committed coaches in the state of Georgia. He has conscientiously devoted innumerable hours of talent and energy to service as coach and educator in the Atlanta public school system, where he was head coach of football, baseball, and basketball. And whereas this distinguished gentleman has been inspiration to many through his high morals, ideals, and deep concern for his fellow citizens, it is an honor that we recognize him in this body today. So I would like to say to you, Coach Tweet, thank you for your service, and ask that y'all come down to the 3rd floor and we can take pictures with members of this body. Thank you, and as always, God is the greatest.
Chair recognizes Chairman Martin for a morning order.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Speaker, thank you for allowing me this moment. I stand today with my colleagues to recognize J. Griffin Doyle. Griff, as we call him and as we've come to know him, was born in Savannah and later attended the University of Georgia, where he got a bachelor's degree and graduated from the Georgia Law School. He began his career as an assistant U.S. attorney in the Northern District and later went on to serve the University of Georgia and our citizens 8 years as the Director of Federal Relations and 7 as the Vice President of Government Relations. Additionally, he helped extend Georgia's resources working for Georgians while serving as an Associate Director of the Carl Vinson Institute of Government and Director of UGA's Regional Economic Partnership. Now, please join me and the sponsors, Speaker Ralston, Representative Fry, Gaines, Wiedauer, Knight, England, and others, as we, I'm sorry, Griff, I'm really going to miss you, as we recognize him for his longstanding service to Georgia on this day of his retirement. Ladies and gentlemen, J. Griffin Doyle. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
I would do a woof woof, but it's in my heart. Chair recognizes Chairman Darlene Taylor for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, members of the House. This is the end of the month, and we've been honoring women all this month. In honor of Women's History Month, I want to acknowledge a wonderful, important woman, Clarice Sands Taylor. She was born in 1913 in Miami. That's when Miami was a frontier town, wild and crazy. She grew up on a farm in Miami, if you can imagine. She was a woman of her time. She lived a life as a dedicated mother. For you see, she had 15 children. She lost 2, one in the 7th month and one in the 8th month, but she raised 13 children. The last child was not yet born when her husband died in an industrial accident. She raised those children. She received limited Social Security benefits, but never had welfare or food stamps or Medicaid. I guess you could say they were a family that was financially poor, but wealthy with love and strong with discipline and devotion to family. I learned much from her, for you see, she was my mother-in-law. She's gone now, but she's a woman of my history, a part of what made me who I am today. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Metz for a morning order.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is a very special day for me. I am excited and honored and happy to have the constituents from District 55. As I mentioned before, I'm partnering with Senator James, and it says on the flyer from 9 to 1, so I made sure I got here very early this morning, and when I went to the room, there were 35 people waiting. So if you get an opportunity, stop by. And during the noonish hour, a representative from the governor's office will be presenting the commendation to the family of the late Bishop McKinley Young, followed by a resolution from the House of Representatives. And hopefully there'll be someone from the Speaker's office to present that. So if you get an opportunity, stop by. You're coming. Thank you very much.
Chair recognizes Representative Al Williams for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Usually when I get to this well, I'm usually in a very good mood, and I'm feeling great this morning. It is not easy. The first of this week, there was an incident in Savannah, Georgia, our hostess city. After spending all of my early life in the civil rights movement, I have become a staunch enemy of any kind of discrimination. And there was an unfortunate meeting where a sign was posted, "No white press allowed," and it was dealing with the future governor or mayorship of Savannah. I'm joined by both Representative Gordon and Representative Gilliardy because it upsets us. That's not the way to do it. And it will not be tolerated in a city like Savannah, Georgia, that requires corporations from blacks and whites to elect anybody in that city. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I'm sorry I'm limited because we could go on today, but thank you for this opportunity. With that, I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Chairman Lynn Smith for a morning order.
Good morning, everyone. Late yesterday, placed on your desk was this white with green triangles on the envelope. It is a sustainability report of Georgia Forest. In 2007, the General Assembly, in recognition of the importance of our forests, asked that they give us a report every 5 years from the Georgia Forest Commission. This report is very telling. They have dealt with the hurricanes, and I will leave it with, I hope you will take a moment and look through it, but the summary is it's our largest, #1 forest state in the nation, and they do a phenomenal job in spite of the difficulties. So we're a fortunate state. Take a moment and hug a tree today. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Newton to introduce the Doctor of the Day.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I'm grateful to have a constituent and a good friend for a long time, Dr. George Persley, with us here today. Dr. Persley received his medical degree from the Medical College of Georgia. He's been in private practice. I know we all talk a lot about primary care in rural Georgia. He's been in both Augusta and rural areas in East Georgia since 1995. In addition to that, he has various leadership roles. He's a delegate to the Medical Association of Georgia to help give advice there. He's also a member of the American Medical Directors Association. Lately, he's been doing a lot of extra work with some very vulnerable Georgia groups, which is the elderly, and helping take care both at Pruitt nursing homes as well as various hospice programs, a crucial time when we're all trying to find ways we can improve the lives of our elderly and vulnerable Georgians. So if you will, help me welcome Dr. George Persley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Representative Newton. It's a pleasure to be here today. Hopefully, no one will need my assistance, but if you do, I'll be glad to try and help. I'd like to thank the House for all the support for the Medical Association of Georgia and also to the health community of the state of Georgia. Thank you very much.
going on to the rules calendar. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 68.
Senate Bill 68 by Senator Sims the 12th, Wilkinson the 50th, Parrott the 42nd, Walker the 20th, and others, to be titled an act to amend Title 20 of the Fiscal Code of Georgia Annotated relating to education, so as to strengthen provisions relating to the financial management of local school systems. This bill having referred to the Committee on Education, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
The chair is going to come back to Senate Bill 68, and we'll do that in a little later. The chair, the clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 117. 117.
Senate Bill 117 by Senator Black of the 8th, Robertson the 29th, and Anderson the 43rd, to be titled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 20, Title 47 of the Fiscal Code of Georgia Annotated relating to the general provisions of the Public Retirement System Standards Law, so as to prohibit the passage of any law, rule, regulation, resolution, or ordinance that allows for credible service in a retirement system that does not require an individual to pay the full actuarial cost. This bill having referred to the Committee on Retirement, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
All right, chair recognizes Representative Williams to present the bill.
Thank you, Madam. I was brought this bill by Senator Ellis Black. He asked me to bring it before the House today, and it's Senate Bill 117. When the bill came before the Rules Committee, there was an amendment added to this bill. And I'm going to go over the highlights with you. So if you'll indulge me, Senator Black's bill, any public retirement system from enacting any law, rule, or regulation for credible service unless that individual is required to pay the full actuarial costs of services. Further, this bill revises all existing code sections where members of the public retirement system are allowed to purchase or earn credible service, and now requires any individual who becomes a member on or after July the 1st, 2019 to pay the full actuarial costs associated with obtaining the credible service. The amendment to this bill was if they're going to pay this amount, it's got to be in one lump sum. What it was drafted at earlier was either a 10-year period or a 20-year period, but the amendment allowed to do a one-time lump sum payment. This is to certify This substitute bill is a non-fiscal retirement bill as defined in the Public Retirement System Standard Law. And with that, Madam, I'll yield for any questions.
You do have a question. The chair recognizes Chairman Martin for a question.
Gentleman, yield for a question.
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true that what Chairman Black said in rules was that he was looking to solidify the pension systems and so that they would go to the benefit of the current employees and the current retirees and they would be a solid system? That's what he was looking for. Isn't that true?
Yes, sir, that is.
Further yield?
Sure.
Isn't it further true that the senator, by asking people to buy years at full actuarial cost, does not put additional risk on the taxpayer and is fiscally responsible, as you noted, that this is not a fiscal bill, actuarially speaking?
The gentleman knows what he speaks.
And the last question, if the gentleman will, isn't it true that the amendment, which became the rule substitute to the bill, which we'll have before us today, a rule substitute, takes out the payment over time to further insulate the taxpayers and further solidify the funds for our current employees and our current retirees? So a yes vote on this bill will protect our employees and retirees in the future. Isn't that true?
That is correct, and I appreciate
Thank
your
you.
help on this bill and amendment. I yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Are you going to speak? Okay. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. The chair recognizes Chairman Benton for the chairman's time.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to call your attention to the fact that this bill only has effect on those retirement systems that are overseen by the state. Your local city and county retirements do not fall under this bill. I want to point out that all the retirement systems had different types of buy-in. We're trying to bring all this under one umbrella so that all the systems that the state oversees are under the same regulations of having to pay full actuarial value for any time bought. And with that, Madam Speaker, I'll yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to withdrawing the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is withdrawn. Is there any objection to adopting the substitute offered by the Committee on Rules? The chair hears none. The Rules Committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of the bill. The yeas were 160, the nays were 0. On the passage of the bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed.
Senate Bill 95 was postponed previously to the next legislative day, and it is being called at this time. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 95.
Senate Bill 95 by Senator Robertson, the 29th Clerk of the 13th Brass of the 28th, and others, to be entitled an act to amend Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to local government so as to change the terms for contracts for utility services. This bill having referred to the Committee on Energy, Utilities, and Telecom. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman McCall to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the committee, the House. Senate Bill 95 is almost the exact language of what we passed out of here unanimously. As in 208, Chairman Setzler had some questions and about it being too broad. This extends a contract which was written who knows how long ago for Georgia's electric cities, and at that time there wasn't any such thing as solar and wind energy. It extends it from 10 years to 20 years and allows them to enter into contracts for solar and wind energy only. It helps out really Georgia's 52 electric cities. For an example of why we need to do this, Walmart by 2025 says that 50% of their power is going to be coming from renewable sources. And this allows Georgia's electric cities to be able to do the contracts, to be able to serve large customers that are leaning toward renewable power. It also is good for rural Georgia because most of Georgia's electric cities are in rural Georgia. And Mr. Speaker, if there's any questions, I'll try to answer them. Otherwise, I would appreciate a green vote on this. Thank you.
You have a question if you care to yield.
I'll take one.
Chair recognizes the Minority Leader of the House, Leader Trammell, to your left for a question.
Will the gentleman yield?
For you, yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Isn't it true there's a $50 million solar project in West Georgia just waiting on the passage of this bill so it can be authorized?
You are exactly correct. And we don't want to lose that $50 million. Thank y'all very much.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 95 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of Senate Bill 95, the ayes are 165, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 591.
House Resolution 591 by Representative Ridley of the 6th, Watson the 172nd, Rose the 120th, creating the House Study Committee on Workforce Housing. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Chair recognizes Representative Vance Smith to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Resolution 591 will take a look at workforce housing across the state of Georgia. It'll have 5 members appointed by the Speaker. We'll meet for no more than 5 times, and this will dissolve at December 1st, 2019. I'd ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All those in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Carson rise?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Rule 133, I ask to be excused from the vote.
Gentleman has that right, and the journal will so reflect. What purpose does Representative Wilson rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't this really about preempting local government building design standards in an attempt to build momentum for a bill that failed to pass this session?
If the gentleman so states, I know he believes that to be true. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? What purpose does Representative Carpenter rise?
Parliamentary.
State your inquiry.
Is affordable housing not an issue across the entire state of Georgia?
I think that probably goes without saying. What purpose does Representative McLaurin rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it possible to care about affordable housing but not agree to the assumptions that the resolution makes in the whereas clauses about the nature of certain building codes?
Well, I think there are a lot of assumptions in a lot of these bills that we may not agree with. If the gentleman so states, I'm sure he believes that to be correct. What purpose does Chairman McCall rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your
Mr. Speaker.
inquiry.
Is it not true that the Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee spent hours debating affordable housing this year, and this is simply a study committee to try to come up with some answers to help people afford to live in their own house?
I'm going to answer that this way. I don't think we've had this many parliamentary inquiries about a study committee since I've been in this position.
I agree.
What purpose does Representative Smith, you waive? He waives. All right. All those in favor are voting aye. Those opposed are voting no. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the adoption of House Resolution 591, the ayes are 118, the nays are 46. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 115.
Senate Bill 115 by Senator Honorman of the 45th, Walker the 20th, Burke of the 11th, Beach the 21st. To be entitled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 34, Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to the Medical Practice Act of the State of Georgia, so as to provide for telemedicine licenses for physicians licensed in other states to engage in the practice of medicine. This bill having referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Cooper to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the well, in recognition to a new way to practice medicine via telemedicine, and especially as a way to reach so many of our areas of the state that have a major lack of physicians, we have already passed a bill about telemedicine, but we have to pass a bill on the licensures of physicians that are going to practice telemedicine. And this is what the substitute to Senate Bill 115 does. It basically lays out how a doctor will obtain a license to practice telemedicine in our state, making sure that they will meet and be held to the high standards that we hold our own physicians to, the ones practicing in the state of Georgia. There is an amendment that is being attached to this bill, and I will answer and present it at the proper time. Is it now? Is this?
Do you yield for questions?
Yes, sir, if there are questions.
Chair recognizes Chairman Setzler to your right for a question.
To my friend of the well, does the lady yield?
Yes, I do.
With telemedicine, I just wanted to confirm that if an out-of-state doctor is providing telemedicine to a person in Georgia, they would be considered practicing law in the state of Georgia pursuant to our laws,
if the patient's in Georgia, the doctor's out of state, they're still considered to be practicing in Georgia. Is that correct?
Yes, they will have to follow our laws.
Thank you. I just want to confirm that.
Okay.
Appreciate the bill.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Walensky to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Got
Hey,
you.
Chairman.
Hi.
Following up on Representative Setzler's question, if an out-of-state doctor is certified in their state and through telemedicine they're going to practice medicine in Georgia, does this bill allow them to do that without being Georgia certified?
No, they have to. It's a different kind of license. They will be licensed especially to do only telemedicine. They couldn't come into our state and and set up a practice, but they will meet our standards.
Okay. All right, they have to. Okay, that's my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You have no further questions. Does the lady care to address the Rules Committee substitute?
Yes, sir. The Rules Committee is offering a substitute to the bill. It adds a bill that passed out of HHS without any opposition. Across our state, years ago, we passed a law that allows for clinics within a pharmacy and staffed by advanced practice nurses. They do practice under a protocol with a physician. The state is divided into different practice areas or health areas, and for each of those areas there had to be a physician that was in charge of the protocol and oversaw those nurses. This simplifies the process. All it says is if CVS or any other pharmacy like Walgreens has a doctor that, and they use the same protocol in each one of those health areas, that one doctor can be responsible for the protocols, but there will still be a doctor overseeing the nurses in each one of the health districts. Mr. Speaker, that is the explanation for the rule summary substitute, and if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Do you yield for a question?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Chairman Beverly to your left for a question.
Does the gentlelady yield?
Yes, sir.
Does this assume that when we're doing this telemedicine, that the doctors who are able to do telemedicine in another state already have reciprocity? This is a sort of reciprocity that we would have in standing. So, for instance, if South Carolina doctor wants to do telemedicine in Georgia, that we'd have a reciprocity contract already in place for them to be able to do telemedicine as well.
I don't know about reciprocity. I know they used to use that, but what I think they would use more are the compact licenses. But there are only compact licenses for physicians in 35 states. Mm-hmm. So that would leave the other 15, and this bill would mainly cover those. Gotcha. So as more and more physicians get compact licensure, that would certainly make the situation very quick. Okay. So, Mr. Speaker, if there are no other questions, I'll yield the well. Thank you.
Lady has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to withdrawing the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is withdrawn. Is there any objection to adopting the substitute offered by the Committee on Rules? The chair hears none. The Rules Committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 115 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of Senate Bill 115, the ayes are 161, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 213.
Senate Bill 213 by Senator Heath, the 31st, Kirkpatrick, the 32nd, Stone, the 23rd, Dugan, the 30th, and others, to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 5 of Title 21, the official code of Georgia annotated relating to campaign contributions, so as to revise the content of and certain reporting times for certain campaign disclosure reports. This bill having referred to the Committee on Governmental Affairs. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Gullett to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of this body. I come to rise today to present to you Senate Bill 213. I want to start off by saying thank you to Chairman Fleming and to Leader Trammell for their hard work they put forth to make this a good bill out of the Senate. This bill is at the request of the Georgia Government Transparency and Campaign Finance Commission. The bill addresses some gaps in the current legislation and increases transparency of elected officials and PACs. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to yield the well for any questions.
You do not have any questions.
Thank you. I yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of Senate Bill 213, the ayes are 162, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 128.
Senate Bill 128 by Senator Huffstetler of the 52nd, Albers of the 56th, and Black of the 8th, to be entitled an act to amend Article 5 of Chapter 7, Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to current income tax payments, so as to provide that each person required to submit a statement of taxes withheld, final payment of wages, or an annual file or annual return shall be assessed a late fee. This bill having referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes the chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, Chairman Harrell, to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, Senate Bill 128, its content does not match the description. Its content is two bills that you've previously passed, House Bill 276, which passed 158 to 6, and House Bill 182, which passed 158 to 3. Those two bills were the result of the Wayfair Supreme Court decision on our online sales tax. As you'll recall, where we just dropped the threshold from $250,000 to $100,000. And the second bill was the bill that we've termed the Marketplace Facilitator Bill, which establishes no new taxes, changes no tax rates, but simply says those online platforms are the responsible entity for collecting and remitting those taxes that are already due. The Senate, through the Senate Finance Committee, asked for a couple of modifications that we have also included here. You'll see on lines 82 to 86, we put in some language offered by Google and Amazon. We're dealing with no class action lawsuits. And then finally on lines 90 and 91, we extended the date by another 6 months. Both Senate Finance and the Department of Revenue requested that date extension. This measure is supported by GMA, ACCG, Georgia Retailers, Home Depot, Amazon, Airbnb, and others. So I would appreciate your favorable consideration and would yield for questions.
You have some questions. Do you yield?
Yes, sir. I'd be glad to.
Chair recognizes the Minority Leader of the House, Leader Trammell, to your left for a question.
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir. I will.
What impact would this legislation have on the tax for ride sharing?
It would have no impact whatsoever. This doesn't levy a new tax of any kind. It also doesn't repeal a tax of any kind, changes no tax rate, neither up or down. It simply identifies the entity that would be responsible for collecting and remitting taxes that are already due.
Will the gentleman further yield?
Yes, sir.
Have you seen the information on the desk about Georgia being the highest tax in the country?
I'm very familiar with the information our rideshare friends are communicating and can share with you a long list for several years of their position of why they have not collected or remitted a single penny of tax in the state of Georgia to date. They are currently in litigation with the state, with the Department of Revenue, over taxes that the state believes they are due. If that litigation falls in their favor, they will owe no tax. If it falls against their desire, they will obviously be subject to the taxes that the state believes they are due. But this bill itself does not levy a new tax. It doesn't raise a tax or eliminate a tax, and so that will be settled through the court system, where I'm sure my learned attorney friends understand much better than I.
Do you further yield?
Yes, sir. I'll yield for another.
Chair recognizes Representative Anulowicz to your left for a question.
Thank you. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Thank you. Is it not true that Chairman Kevin Tanner worked for the past 2 years with rideshare taxi and limo drivers on a per-ride fee to generate revenue, which will generate revenue, but save taxpayers money through House Bill 511?
I'm familiar with that provision in House Bill 511. I do not believe it currently exists.
Does the gentleman further yield?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Isn't it true that in the substitute version of HB 276 that will pass the Senate today, the tax is taken off of taxi and limo services as well as rideshare?
I have notified the Senate that there is a means to address that issue if they so chose, but Marketplace Facilitator, House Bill 276, which, as I just stated, doesn't change a single tax rate, doesn't raise a tax, lower a tax, impose a new tax, or repeal a tax, is simply the wrong vehicle to have that policy discussion.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I would ask for your favorable consideration on this measure, and again, I would ask you to support this measure that's beneficial to not only the state, but our cities and counties and online and brick and mortar retailers in Georgia. Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Wynn rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that this will create an 8.9% tax on rideshare and hurt the most vulnerable Georgians who rely on rideshare to get to their places of employment?
I do not have the answer to that. You might talk to the author of the bill. What purpose does Representative Allen rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that this House in 2017 voted down a bill to impose tax on rideshare?
I seem to recall that happening. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? What purpose does Representative Kelly rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true, Mr. Speaker, that there's no new taxes levied in this measure? All this is a collection mechanism.
I'm sure the gentleman has familiarized himself with the bill and knows about what he speaks. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of Senate Bill 128, the ayes are 94, the nays are 74. This bill having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 589.
House Resolution 589 by Representative Newton of the 123rd and others, creating the House Study Committee on Maternal Mortality. This bill having referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Newton to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to be with each of you today. House Resolution 589 would create a House Study Committee on Maternal Mortality and other purposes. We all may have read in the AJC last September about the disappointing rate that Georgia has for maternal and infant mortality, something that we desperately want to move out of the bottom two, or either 49th or 50th. So Georgia is one of the most challenged, and certain populations in Georgia are even higher than that. What House Resolution 589 would do would be to form a House Study Committee that could then work with the great people we have at DPH. We have a new DPH commissioner, Dr. Kathleen Toomey, who's very excited about addressing maternal and infant mortality. We would take the information that's being collected right now. There's 3 years of data the Maternal Mortality Review Committee is already collecting. We would start doing that, and then we would try to put together some concrete legislative proposals to actually move forward and get us, aim for the top half, then the top quarter, and maybe the top 10 best and healthy babies and healthy mothers. That's a major priority of the March of Dimes. It's shared by many of us on here. We look forward to doing this, and I'd appreciate your support for House Resolution 589, the House Study Committee on Maternal Mortality. I'll yield.
You do not have any questions.
Thank you for your favorable consideration.
We have members that wish to be heard on the resolution. Chair recognizes Representative Mabel Thomas to speak to the resolution.
Thank you. I basically just rise to thank the members of this body. Specifically, I want to thank Chairman of the Appropriations Committee, Representative Butch Paris, Representative Carol Hughley, Representative Pat Gardner, and others on that subcommittee that have worked to make sure that money has been put in the budget to try to help this issue. And I do believe, as I stand in favor of this, it also gives us an opportunity to look at this issue and really come to a real resolve around it. I looked at the members on this committee. It's a very dynamic membership. I would also have to say that it was an initiative of the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus under leadership of Ms. Representative Bennett. And we've done different events around this, trying to bring attention to it. And we're glad that it's moving forth in this body. And so thank you, members of this body, and we thank you in the direction that we're going. And I want to say also to thank Erica Thomas, Renita Shannon, Pam Dickerson, Sean Kendricks, and others who have sort of, not that everybody has been in, but some of these people have been in the lead to make sure that this goes forth. And Representative Sharon Cooper, we thank you so much for your support. Thank you, and God bless.
Chair recognizes Representative Cannon to speak to the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is so wonderful to think about what we're doing with this piece of legislation. As we know, in the state of Georgia, Black women die in childbirth 3 times the rate of any of their counterparts. This affects the lives of families going forward. We know that Time magazine has recently reported that despite the fact that millions gained health insurance over the past 8 years, more Black women have been dying and continue to rely on Medicaid. This study committee that will include women of color will make it clear that we understand that we must not only study this effort, but we must fund it as well. I urge you all to support this important piece of legislation. Thank you. I yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All those in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the adoption of House Resolution 589. The ayes are 170, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 584.
House Resolution 584 by Representative Jones, the 25th, Petrie, the 160th, and others, creating the House Study Committee on exploring a floor and trade charity care system. This resolution having been referred to the Committee on Special Quality Health Care. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Chair recognizes Representative Dubnik to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I stand before you in place of Representative Todd Jones, who unfortunately is homesick today, and I'm sure he would do a much better job presenting this, but I hope to make him proud. You know, a point of personal privilege here, if you haven't had the chance to sit down in all sincerity and talk with Todd Jones, you are missing out on a fantastic mind, a mind that thinks and approaches things in government like I believe we have rarely seen. And this is something that's very unique, and as Governor Kemp has said, in us leading in a number of areas, with healthcare being one of them, I firmly believe that this study committee will be a way for us to do just that. This resolution would establish the Floor and Trade Charity Care System Study Committee. Our goal as a state must be to increase care and provide greater access to those most in need. Floor and trade, similar to what some of you may know as cap and trade, drives that effort through a market-based approach that rewards the exact behavior that we collectively as a body aspire to provide to all Georgians in need. This drives innovation through cost efficiencies and greater capital investment by incenting, please note, not mandating providers to meet or beat their floor, but provides a minimum service level of indigent and charitable care. Government's role will simply be to set the floor, oversee audit results, and ensure the market is rigorous and fair. Ultimately, we have a framework, but as Representative Jones is asking for this committee just to give us the summer to put the meat on the bone and truly develop a first-of-its-kind indigent and charitable care approach in the entire country. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I'd be happy to yield for any questions.
You do have a question if you care to yield.
Yes, sir, I'd be happy to yield.
Chair recognizes Representative McLaurin to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Am I understanding this program correctly that there are some hospitals, nonprofit hospitals, that provide less indigent care simply maybe by virtue of their geography, and this system would require every hospital to meet a certain level of providing indigent care, so that if they don't have those patients, they would have to purchase credits from other hospitals in order to meet that requirement?
Yes, sir, and I'm gonna refer back to the idea of cap and trade that this is all built upon. So previously, where we would try to put a cap on certain emissions and force people to buy credits if they need to, quote, buy down. In this case, we would establish a floor. a minimum, if you will. And for those who are below that threshold, they would need to purchase credits from those who are above so that they could meet the floor. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
You yield for a couple of more questions?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, one more.
Chair recognizes Chairman Houston to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Isn't it nice to have somebody that's thinking outside the box and providing this study committee in an innovative way to take care of our most needy patients?
Well, I could not agree with you anymore. And again, Representative Jones, when he sits down with a stack of napkins and 3 pens to explain something, and it all just makes sense, and it seems such like such common sense that we could tackle such a large problem. So I'm excited and hope that this becomes a reality.
Thank you so much for bringing it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for your favorable consideration. I yield the will.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All those in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the adoption of House Resolution 584, the ayes are 163. The nays are 5. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 138.
Senate Bill 138 by Senator Martin of the 9th, Willis, the 53rd, Albers, the 56th, Dugan, and the 30th, and others, to be entitled an act to amend the official code of Georgia annotated so as to provide certain benefits to disabled first responders. This bill then referred to the Committee on Motor Vehicles. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Montahan to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, I am pleased to present Senate Bill 138 to you today. This bill is supporting the Sickle Cell Foundation of Georgia. It's a Georgia nonprofit committed to detecting and helping Georgians with sickle cell disease. This foundation has screened over 100,000 Georgians and detected over 10,000 cases of sickle cell in our state. This would create a special tag to that end to support that foundation. Additionally, this bill allows for the disabled first responders to receive a special and distinctive tag to recognize their service to their community. These tags will be made available to the applicant at no charge in appreciation of their sacrifice and service to our state and our communities. And I have provided a fiscal note to that end. That is bill, Mr. Speaker, and I yield for questions.
You have a couple of questions if you care to yield.
I yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Prince to your left for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I yield.
Is it true that sickle cell is a disease that has caused very just traumatic effects, not only in the African American community, but also in other communities as well?
The gentleman knows of what he speaks.
Do you further yield?
I do.
The sales, with a refund, the revenue from the tags that would be purchased would only go towards continuing research and to combat this disease.
That's right, to help these folks with this disease.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Do you further yield?
I yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Gullett to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I yield.
Isn't it true today we had some first responders, public safety here from our county, and that we consider our public safety our local heroes?
I know that to be true.
Thank you for this bill.
Thank you. If that's it, Mr. Speaker, I will yield the well.
Do you further yield?
I yield.
Well, let's see what our newest member wants to know. Chair recognizes Representative Burchett to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I yield.
Isn't it true that our local heroes, at the minimum, we could give them these benefits here, and I agree with those?
I know that to be true.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to withdrawing the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is withdrawn. Is there any objection to adopting the substitute offered by the Committee on Rules? The chair hears none. The Rules Committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 138 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of Senate Bill 138. The ayes are 162, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. What purpose does Representative Lott rise?
To make a motion,
State your motion.
I make a motion to remove HB 321 from the table.
Representative Lott has moved that House Bill 321 be taken off the table. It was placed there yesterday by a vote of this House. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 321 by Representative Lott of the 122nd Reeves, the 34th Rogers, the 10th, and others being titled an act to amend Article 6C of Chapter 8 of Title 31 of the Fiscal Code of Georgia, annotated, relating to the hospital Medicaid financing program.
Representative Lott has moved. Now we're taking up some business here. Representative Lott has moved that House Bill 321 be taken off the table. All those in favor of her motion will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. What purpose does Representative Lott rise?
Parliamentary inquiry,
State
sir.
your inquiry.
Is it not true that we have a number of letters that have been placed on our table at this time from hospitals, and they are in favor of this bill?
I have not seen anything on the desk, but I understand that there are.
Thank you, sir.
Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the lady's motion that House Bill 321 be taken off the table, the ayes are 111, the nays are 40, and it has been removed from the table. What purpose does Representative Lott rise?
To make a motion.
State your motion.
I make a motion for reconsideration of House Bill 321. No.
You're
just moving to agree to the Senate substitute.
You want to correct that?
I would love to correct that.
All
Thank
right.
you so much. I make a motion to move to the Senate substitute of House Bill 321 as amended by the House.
The lady's motion is that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 321 as amended by the House. That's what will be voted on. Clerk has read the caption. On the lady's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 321 as amended by the House, all those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. What purpose does Representative Thomas rise?
Parliamentary
State
inquiry.
your inquiry.
Is it not true that I do have the note on my desk, but I'm not clear as to which hospitals are in support of this legislation?
Well, they should have signed it. Not having seen it, I can't speak to that. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the lady's motion that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 321 as amended by this House, the ayes are 107, the nays are 61, and this House has agreed. I can't hear anything you're saying because
Okay. Mr. Speaker, for the last two bills, I've been mashing green and it has not registered. I thought that my hands was not quick on the last one, but by it not registering this time, I think somebody needs to check my machine.
Okay, well, you need to come down here and see the clerk's office and
Okay.
let them know that.
All right.
What purpose does Representative Gravely rise? He waves. What purpose does Chairman Stevens rise? Chair recognizes Chairman Stevens for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 186.
Chairman Stevens has moved that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 186. Chairman Stevens has moved that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 186. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 186 by Representative Stevens and 164th Gilliard of the 162nd, Petrie of the 166th, and others, being entitled an act to amend Article 4, Chapter 7, and Title 31 of the Fiscal Code of Georgia, annotated, relating to county and municipal hospital authority so as to revise provisions relating to sale or lease of a hospital by a hospital authority.
Chair recognizes Chairman Stevens to explain the Senate substitute to House Bill 186.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, you might recall the original bill that we had went over to the Senate, and that language you'll see on line 1348 basically creates a new hospital authority in Savannah that moves from a public hospital to a private hospital and allows all the money generated there to go to indigent care. Also attached to it in the Senate was a lot of certificate of need stuff, and just like the previous bill, the hospitals are okay with this language. So I would ask, with these minor changes for significant for the CON, for example, moving the cap so that your hospital can get better and more equipment and expenditures from 2.5 million to 10, and the CTCA language is in there to finally make them a general cancer hospital, and some other things that are just minor changes in the bill. And I hope that you'll agree with the bill as a substitute from the Senate so that we can move on and finally get some transparency and some things that mean something for our hospitals. Mr. Speaker, I'll answer any questions if there are any. If not, I'll yield the well.
You have no questions? On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 186, all those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? What purpose does Representative Cannon rise? She waves. Have all members now voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage or on the gentleman's motion. The ayes are 170, the nays are 3. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 186. Chair recognizes Representative Holly for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's probably the first time that a vegetarian is going to announce this, but across the street, Coverdale Legislative Office Building, room 514, AUC Day Barbecue, smoking barbecue. Thank you.
If I could have your attention, please, just for a moment. Just a few minutes ago, the chair was made aware that a former member of this body, some of you served with and knew, Representative Joe Wood from Hall County, is in very, very critical condition. And so as you go about your lunch break, keep Representative Wood and his family in your prayers. He was a very distinguished member of this body. Thank you. House will be in recess until 2 p.m. for lunch.